Hello and welcome back to another class. My name is Tati. Welcome back if you've practiced with me before, and welcome if you're new here. This is the fourth part of a 10-part series where we focus on the Yamas and the Niyamas. As a reminder, these are the first 2 limbs of the 8 limbs of yoga and focus on the ethical restraints and observances in yoga. And today we will be doing the 4th yama called Brahmacharya, which is non-excess. So how we can practice non-excess on the mat as well as off the mat. So as part of the series, I'll be guiding you in the class, giving you some journal prompts and practices that you can take off the mat, all inspired by a book called The Yamas and the Niyamas from Deborah Adele. I will link all the other classes for you in the description box below. You don't have to do them in any particular order. And these classes are all yin style, so more restorative, slower paced. For today's class, I would recommend having a bolster. Don't worry if you don't have a bolster at home, you can also use some pillows, so just normal bed pillows or a rolled up blanket. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, why not go ahead and click subscribe to join the community. Let's get started in a comfortable seated position on the mat. So finding a nice tall spine, relaxing the shoulders away from the ears, and just arriving in your practice, taking a few deep breaths in and out, all the way into the belly. And what does non-excess mean to you? So in a world where we are bombarded with all of the things that we can consume and buy, everything from physical possessions to experiences, digital content. So non-excess really is about focusing on having a balance and using only as much as is needed. So finding into deer pose, the left shin is parallel to the short edge of the mat, and then bringing the right knee along the left foot, bending at 90 degrees. So you're forming 2 90-degree shapes. Finding into this gentle hip stretch. You don't want any pain in the knee, so this really should be quite a gentle pose. Deer pose. Softening the gaze. And you can place the hands anywhere on the ground or perhaps on the body. And then from here, you're going to bend into the knees so the feet both rest on the ground with the knees bent, and then just let the knees fall over to the opposite side. So now the right shin is parallel to the short end of the mat. The left knee is bent at 90 degrees, pointing behind you. Finding a nice tall spine and letting the knees and the hips sink heavy. Deer pose on the other side. And the first prompt for Brahmacharya or non-excess is an invitation to practice living in non-excess. So eating, sleeping, and working to the point of increased energy rather than waiting for the lethargy of excess to set in. I think we all know that feeling when we've just worked, eaten, or slept too much and we're feeling burnt out, exhausted, or lethargic. So, living to the point where we're feeling energized rather than lethargic. Pleasure, but without the excess. And then inhale, coming out of deer pose, bringing the bottom of the feet to touch. You can walk the feet a little bit forward, forming a butterfly shape with the feet. And then rounding the spine, letting the upper body melt towards the feet, letting gravity do the work here in butterfly pose. And the second invitation to practice non-excess off the mat and in your daily life is to notice where you see God and where you don't. So, God doesn't necessarily have to be the God that we know from traditional religious texts. It can also be a universal spirit or whatever definition you have of God. Noticing the beliefs and judgments that limit your ability to see God and experience God in all things. So the practice is seeing everything to be a relationship with the divine, seeing the sacred in the ordinary, and seeing God in every person that you encounter. By allowing yourself to not be clouded by excess, you will see God. And you can interpret this in whatever way resonates with you. Inhale, coming out of butterfly pose, and then rolling over the knees, coming into a kneeling position. You can stay in the kneeling position or you can tuck the toes under, sitting down on the heels for a toe stretch. And the further back you sit, the more intense the stretch will be. And the more you lean forward, you'll lessen the intensity, and you can rest the hands on the knees or on the mat in front of you, coming into a toe stretch. The sensations start to get quite strong. Remember to take deep breaths, keeping a soft expression in the face. Of course, you're very welcome to come out of the toe stretch and into a normal kneeling position. And exhale, releasing, sliding the legs over and around. Left foot stays to the inside of the right thigh, stretching the right leg out to the side. Right toes pointed up. And then folding over the right leg. You can round the spine, finding into a half butterfly pose. And with every exhalation, letting yourself sink a little deeper. And inhale, lifting yourself back up, bringing the right leg in and switching sides, slowly sliding the left leg out to the left side, squaring the hips over towards the left leg, and then rounding the spine, folding over the left side, half butterfly. And the third invitation to practice Brahmacharya or non-excess in your life is to contemplate your own divinity. So perhaps after class, you might like to do some journaling and write down 3 practices that connect you to your passions and sacredness, and then go out and live the sacredness of your life, remembering that excess often distracts us from which truly matters. I know for myself, doing a digital detox every now and then can be really good to remove all the excess stimulation and focus me back to what truly matters. And all of the prompts will be linked for you in the description box below, so you can have a look after class and see if there's anything that you'd like to practice off the mat. Inhale, coming out of the pose, and then straightening the right leg out. So both legs are pointing away from you. You can adjust the legs to be closer or further apart to adjust the intensity of the stretch. And if you have a bolster or pillow, you might like to use it now by sliding the short edge towards the pelvis and then melting the upper body, resting on your prop, relaxing into dragonfly pose. So how can you contemplate your own divinity? What practices can you do that connect you to your passions and your sacredness so that you can live the sacredness in your life and remove any distractions from that which truly matters? I find that being in nature is a really easy way to help me connect to that which is really important, but you might have something else that helps you with that. Inhale, slowly lifting yourself out of dragonfly, moving your bolster or prop to the side if you are using one, sliding the legs together, and then finding all the way onto your back where we'll be going into bridge pose. So if you are using a prop, you might like to have it so that the long end of the prop, the bolster or pillow, is at the small of your back. Feet are about hip width distance apart, and resting the lower part of the spine and the glutes on top of the prop in supported bridge pose. If you don't have a prop, you can also hold a more active version of bridge. We will be here for a few breaths, so if you don't have a prop, you can always lower yourself down and then come back up if you are feeling a bit tired. Palms can be resting, palms up, or placing the hands on the belly. If if you are using a bolster, there's also a variation available where you can straighten the legs out. And then inhale, slowly coming up and out of the pose, finding your way onto your back, sliding the bolster away, and then letting the legs, the knees fall over towards the right side, opening up the arms in a T shape, resting the right hand on top of the left knee perhaps, and closing the eyes or gazing up towards the sky or over the left fingertips in a reclining rotation. With the next inhalation, slowly coming back up through center and letting the knees fall over towards the left side, arms open in a T shape. You can rest the left hand on top of the knees, sinking the right shoulder towards the earth, gazing up towards the sky or over the right fingertips, or closing down the eyes, melting the body into the earth. And you'll notice in yin style classes, we have a lot more time for silence. This is another way that we can practice a non-excess on the mat, so having less stimulation. Inhale, releasing the twist, bringing the legs back up through center, and then bending the knees, grasping onto the outside edges of the feet, finding into happy baby pose. So the lower back is resting on the mat. You might like to rock the baby gently from side to side, and then finding into stillness. Chin is slightly tucked, knees draw towards the armpits. And the final way that we can explore how to practice non-excess or Brahmacharya off the mat is to have a look and examine your values, beliefs, habits, and actions around sexuality and sexual activity. So, noticing if you act on outside authority or your own beliefs, and practice non excess in this area of your life. Hugging the knees into the chest, giving yourself a loving embrace. And then placing the left foot down onto the mat, right ankle on top of left knee into shoelace pose. This is option 1, or the option to thread the arms through the legs, holding onto the left knee, over the knee or under the knee, and hugging the knees into the chest. So living in non-excess by eating, sleeping, and working to the point of increased energy and before the lethargy of excess sets in. Practicing pleasure without excess. And releasing eye of the needle, placing both feet on the mat, about mat width distance apart, with the knees falling in, hands on the belly in constructive rest. Taking 3 deep rounds of breath here. Placing the left ankle on top of the right knee. Option to stay here, or threading the arms through, holding onto the outside or inside of the right knee. And hugging everything in towards the body. Lower spine stays connected to the earth. So reflecting how you can practice non-excess in your life. How you can focus on the things that really matter to you. Your own sacredness, your own divinity. Releasing shoelace pose, stretching the legs out in a straight line and then slowly pressing yourself up. Finding into caterpillar. So if your hamstrings are feeling a bit tight, you can walk the feet a little bit further apart or bend into the knees. Otherwise, keeping the legs together. Option to place a bolster on top of the legs and then rounding the spine, resting on the bolster, or simply letting gravity do the work. And inhale, slowly rounding the spine, bringing the legs back into a comfortable cross-legged position, resting the hands on the knees, and taking a moment to reflect on what Brahmacharya or non-excess means to you. how you like to practice this off the mat. And then exhale, rolling all the way down onto your back, taking any final movements, finding whatever shape works for you for Shavasana, our final resting pose. Unclenching the jaw, relaxing the eyeballs, feeling the body sink heavy into the earth as all of the tension melts away from the body. And resting here for a couple of minutes in silence, and I'll call us back when it is time. Slowly start to deepen the breath, inviting movement back into the body by wriggling the fingers and the toes, finding length by stretching the arms up and overhead, and then rolling over one side, pausing in the fetal position, taking a moment to notice how you feel in your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual body. And then slowly pressing yourself up into a comfortable seated position, resting the left palm on the heart and the right hand on top of the left. Connecting to your own inner sacred divinity. And bowing the gaze. Namaste. Thank you so very much for practicing this Brahmacharya or non-excess class. I really hope that you enjoyed it. As I mentioned, you can find all the journal prompts in the description box below. I'm also linking all of the classes of this 10-part series as they come out. You don't have to do it in any particular order. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do that. It really helps support my work. And I look forward to seeing you again real soon. All my love.